Good day to all who are watching. I enjoy the IACs each year because it is an opportunity to share the latest information with the global space professionals. Each year, the space elevator moves closer to operations with the recognition that we have started an actual development program, as described by Mr. Fitzgerald in a later talk. Today, we will share simple concepts. Rockets and space elevators should work together collaboratively, where they have a system or a strategy called dual space access architecture. It leverages the strengths of both space elevators and advanced rockets. The unique characteristics of the space elevator to provide a permanent space access infrastructure will enable many programs not deemed doable today because of their immense mass requirements to orbit. As we share time today, I will do what most dreamers and visionaries don't do in the space arena. I will show the mass required to fulfill those dreams. For discussions today, let's concede that rockets can place 20 tons to geosynchronous. That's basically a delivery statistic of 2% of the mass on the pad before liftoff. In the near future, there will be many, many more launches. There have been talks of 1,000 launches a year, 10 times what we're doing today. And the reliability will be big time and the expense very low. However, those factors are not part of the rocket equation. So during these discussions for a standardization, we're going to say 20 metric tons to geo and beyond by future rockets. It's just a number, but that's what we're going to use to reference today. And we're off. Turns out there are many dreamers out there today. We have NASA right in the middle with their space launch system. They're working with the European Space Agency and many, many other organizations, and they are going to put people on the moon. There is no doubt about it. The first woman, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be exciting. And the gateway, the international gateway, is going to be a tremendous growth from where we are today. Of course, there's the Mars mission. Mr. Musk wants to put a colony on Mars, 1 million people up on Mars. And then there's a lunar base, the lunar village, the lunar colony, whatever you want to call it. But of course, the granddaddy of all those visions was the L5 Society wanting to put a 4-mile long cylinder, 1 mile in diameter, roughly, plus or minus, whoever designing it, rotating cylinder for people living at the L5 location. And of course, one of the most recent dreamers is Mr. Bezos. That's his Blue Moon vehicle. It was really exciting to see in 2019 in Washington, D.C. I kind of cheated. I leaned over the ropes and touched it. Oh man, dreamers. I love this stuff. Okay, the National Space Society, which I'm a member of, has the basic vision of we're going to go off planet. We're going to live and work in thriving communities. And that's very, very true in the future. The question is, how do we get there? And this is a question that Dr. O'Neill talked about in his vision for the L5 Society. That's a remarkable capability. Oops, remember, I said I was going to mention mass. To do an L5 colony around the L5, the equivalent distance to the moon, 10,500,000 tons. Do the math yourself. 20 metric tons into 10 million. That's a lot of launches. The lunar village is really a pretty neat concept. We're really, really looking forward to that. There are a lot of people planning that. That's really the big step, along with Mr. Musk and his going to Mars. But this one's close, and we can practice a little bit there before we get to Mars. Here's Mr. Musk's approach. He wants to put 1 million people on Mars, and he wants to do it in a reasonable time frame, and he wants to charge people a reasonable amount of money to go and take your trip to Mars. Now, that is not a one-way trip. It's round trip if you want, or you can go and colonize, but it's a remarkable concept. And I really support Mr. Musk and his ideas. But oops, 1 million metric tons to the surface of Mars. Remember, 20 metric tons per launch. And even his system, the Starship, works out to about 20 metric tons per trip, mission spacecraft. What we have in the space elevator community is a green road to space vision. We want to be the green road. We want to lift payloads off the ground using electricity. No burning of fuels, no parts left in low Earth orbit. We have a green road to space. In addition to being green in operations, we will enable green type missions, such as space solar power. I've got a chart on that also. But we believe we can be the supplier of heavy mass to these locations of GEO and beyond. Here's our little report that we just finished on the green road. We explain how we do it, raising up with electricity and the amount of tonnage we move. And we talk about how that's going to make the environment much nicer. Here's Dr. Glazer's vision of the space solar power. It's a design by Dr. Mankins and his team. Now, it's just one of many. There's Cassiopeia and a whole bunch more. The idea is we stop global warming, or at least slow it down significantly, but we try to solve the climate problem by providing electricity to the surface of the Earth from geosynchronous. It's a remarkable idea, but remember I said mass. He said, Dr. Monken said that he would like to have 5 million tons to geosynchronous so that he can stop or significantly slow global warming. And the way you do that is you eliminate coal burning plants by providing the electricity, and you replace the source of electricity around the globe. Instead of coal burning plants or gas burning plants, we use space energy coming down. Remember, 5 million tons. Now, our dream is pretty simple. We want to enable others to achieve theirs. The way we do that is we list massive amounts of cargo from the surface of the Earth to these locations: geosynchronous, surface of the moon, Mars, L5, wherever the dreams will take us. What we want to do is do a dual space access strategy, and that's portrayed there on the left side of the screen. That was done by an intern to the International Space Elevator Consortium, a summer intern, Amelia Stanton, and she did that painting which portrays the concept of the future. We really are in an evolutionary step for humanity, but it's a revolutionary infrastructure. We have started development, and it's essential for humankind to take mass up using electricity. Here's the numbers I promised. Space solar power, 5 million tons to GEO. Moon Village, 500,000. Now that's my estimate, but that's a lot of tons, but that's what you need to have people living and prospering on the surface of the moon, doing mining, doing all those things that you need to survive. SpaceX colony, Mr. Musk has already stated he needs 1 billion tons. And the O'Neill colony, I looked it up in 4 ways to Sunday. I aimed that up with 10,500,000 tons. Remember now, we're talking mass, and we're talking past GEO or at GEO, and that's 20 tons per liftoff. That's a lot. Okay, now let's put it in perspective. We're talking mass. Let's continue to talk mass. We have here a chart that I made up. It took about 6 weeks of spending a lot of time on the stupid web. But essentially, I've come up with the mass that we've put in orbit. Now, you can argue anything you want, but we only came up with 22,000 tons in the history of humankind. Now, I could be off by 30, 40%, so maybe double that. I don't care. It's not very much. 22,000 tons. Now, when we get our space elevator going, initial operating capability is on the left side as we're growing, but then we get to the full operating capability. When we get to full operational capability, well, our initial operating capability will put more up in 1 year than humanity's put up so far. And by the way, we're going to GEO, and they only went to LEO, and that's a factor of 2 there. Okay, the full operational capability, we're talking about 170,000 tons. We're actually talking about seriously cutting into the mass required for the Dreamers. Okay, a quick note here just to set the stage for Mr. Fitzgerald's talk in the next few minutes. We are well into the engineering validation where we must start testing. Now, we're not at the testing yet, but we're in the planning phase and getting it ready. We've finished the technological feasibility step. We're ready to go into engineering validation. So what we want to do is emphasize that we want to work with rockets. We're partners to rockets. We're collaboration with rockets. We want to work with them in this step. I'm hitting the wrong buttons here, aren't I? Not very good control. Anyway, dual space access architecture. What are the strengths of space elevators? Okay, now don't read that list. You can always look at it later. The kicker is it's like a bridge, a train track. It's daily, it's routine, it's safe, it's inexpensive. And that's what we will provide to the space access community. No shake, rattle, and roll. We put massive stuff on it. It goes straight up using electricity from the sun. Now, there's a special strength. We finished the study at the Arizona State University about 1.5 years or 2 years ago. We came up with some conclusions. One is, and the one I love is, we don't have to wait for nobody, no rotation of planets. We can launch or release towards Mars every day of the year. In addition, we can get there in 61 days on the best days. Some trips might take 400 days, but who cares if you're sending nails and hammers if it takes 400. If you want pizza, you want to send it on the 61 days. And it's massive movement toward Mars. So we can really, really help Mr. Musk on his approach. Let him take people, we'll take mass. So this is the way it works. You've got a rotating tether, 100,000 kilometers long. That's where the apex anchor is. It's going 7.76 kilometers per second when it leaves the Earth region. Now, normally, when payloads are going toward Mars, they leave it less than 3 kilometers per second, in addition to the Earth's velocity, of course. And it takes them 7 to 9 months to get there. We can get there in 61 days. How do we do that? Aha, we cut the corner. We don't go and leave with the Hohmann transfer parallel to the flight of the Earth. No, we cut the corner. We go straight, and it's a lot faster. And how can you do that? Because you're going fast, really fast. We've even come up with a bus schedule. Can you imagine a bus schedule going to Mars? You want to take some people, you go on Tuesday. If you want to send some nails and heavy stuff, send it on a long trip. But we have a bus schedule. Here's our look for interplanetary. 2 space elevators combined into what we're calling a galactic harbor. And we've got 3 pairs of those around the equator. The promise to planetary scientists: any scientific payload mass to any location in the solar system. Piece of cake. Vision of the future: on to the moon and Mars with rockets, and then we fill up everything with the mass by using space elevators. Conclusions: can we do daily liftoffs to the interplanetary flights? Of course we can. It's just a matter of how long it takes to get there, but we have the velocity to do it. What type of massive support? Once we become mature, 170,000, basically 6 years to fulfill Mr. Musk's needs. What type of launch windows? Oh, every day. I love that part. Fastest trip, 61 days. That was a great study by the Arizona State University and the International Space Elevator Consortium. Recommendation: we embrace the vision of the space elevator. It will enable dreams. We will be able to fill what we want to do. Recognize the space elevator leads on the way to get off planet. We should be there supporting the massive movement. And we need to really keep the momentum going on space elevators. The vision, the mass movement, and it's a green movement off planet. They're all important. Okay, well, thank you very much. I'll be there in Dubai, and we can talk about that and see where we're going. Okay, let me stop the slideshow here. If I can find